Hi, I'm Ed Bernstein, and welcome to show number 1000. That's right. This is our 1000th TV show here on Channel 3. It all began in 1989, January 1989. In fact, it was a week before my daughter Dana was born. Unfortunately, a couple of years ago, my daughter Dana passed. She had a lifetime battle of Crohn's disease, and it was a heartbreak for all of us and something we'll never recover from. And I've seen so many things during the years that I've done this show. I've interviewed presidents and vice presidents and governors and U.S. senators and congressmen and rock stars and entertainers and movie stars and authors and athletes and some of the smartest people in America I've met. I've been so fortunate in that regard. I've seen so much come and go, seen the boom and the bust of Las Vegas over the years. I've watched practically every hotel be demolished and then rebuilt bigger and better. I've watched my own family change. My daughters, Eden and Ilana, were born, and I've been blessed to have a family with my wife, Claudia, and stepchildren, Talia, Isabella, and Sophia. It's been an incredible ride for me, up, down, and it's an unbelievable town we all live in, Las Vegas. It's just an amazing place. We're going through some difficulty now, but this town will be better than ever soon. We started in 1989. My next guest, my special guest for this show, also started in 1989. He was 12 years old then. And he's had an unbelievable life also. He's seen so many things as well. His name, Nick Carter from the Backstreet Boys. We'll be right back with Nick. Well, with me now, it's my great pleasure for our show number 1000, Nick Carter. And Nick, I was saying that, our television show started in 1989. And I understand you did also.
Yeah, first I was born in 1980, so I would have been 9 years old. So right around, 9 to 10 years old is when I really started to, sing and dance. And that's when I joined like a dance school and started doing I started heating up in Tampa and Orlando in the acting world. And also in the singing world. And so I was doing a lot of competitions and things. So around 9 years old is when I kind of started to discover that, I was an entertainer and that I actually loved it and enjoyed it.
Well, look, I know that you play guitar, drums, right? You play drums,
yep.
Right? You sing, you dance, you act, you direct, you write. What came first? What was the first talent that you had, that you realized you had?
I mean, I guess you could say it started with singing. There was a story that was told that when I was around 9 years old in '89, there was an old tree stump out in the back of my yard, and I would jump up on that tree stump and I would pretend that I was actually singing on a stage, and I would use the little blades of grass as my audience, and each blade of grass would be a person. And so at that time, I mean that was probably 100,000 and more in front of my little stage. I never thought that maybe later on in life that I would be playing to close to that many people, but that was kind of like the first time that I really discovered that I was. And then my mom at that time, she overheard me singing, and I was just singing whatever was on the radio and performing it on that little tree stump stage. And then she came out and she said, "Oh wow, this kid could sing," and so put me in vocal lessons at that time. So that's when I started.
And you did some local commercials, I understand, at that time. Did you do lessons? I mean, how did that work?
Actually, I'm classically trained. That was the first vocal and singing lessons that I actually had. I went in with a classical teacher, and she had a old grand piano, and we would do scales and just sing. It was interesting, the kind of stuff that I was raised on, and that I would sing was a little bit different than what was on the radio. So I would uh, perform or practice to like Simon and Garfunkel, or Bridge Over Troubled Water was one of my first songs that I actually ever sang and practiced. And a lot of stuff from musicals to all the old like Sound of Music or things like that. That I would basically practice and vocalize and learn my scales and all those things to classical music. That was really what brought me up, and that's what I think gives me that very broad spectrum of just the different types of things that I can sing.
Yeah, not only that, I mean, groups like Simon and Garfunkel, I mean, they had lyrics that meant something. The Broadway shows you're talking about, they had lyrics. Was that an influence on your writing ability as well?
Yeah, again, like I go back to the things that I started when I was around that age, before I met the boys, and before I met the Backstreet Boys, I was around 13 years old. So I had about 3 years, before I met the guys, and during that time, I was doing a lot of singing, but then also acting. And so there would be a lot of musical theater stuff going on. That was a lot of the stuff that I was performing and singing to. And that's what definitely influenced me.
I know that you have siblings. You have 4 siblings that have musical talent. Did your parents have any talent also?
I like to say that my grandmother on my mom's side and my grandfather on my mom's side were both sort of in the classical realm as well. The kind of music that they would listen to, and a lot of my grandfather, I call him Grandpa Doug. He would bring me to a lot of musicals. He lived in a place called Chautauqua up in upstate New York, Chautauqua Institution, and up there they had like this musical theater, and he would always bring me there, and along with his wife, my step grandmother Linda. And yeah, so I could say it probably came from that side a little bit for sure. My mom's side, the Spalding side, is the surname.
So which instrument did you pick up first?
I started playing drums when I was 11 years old. And I really fell in love with drums. At that time I was listening to a lot of grunge music, they called it at the time. So a lot of like Nirvana or what else? Pearl Jam or Soundgarden or things like that. And so I really loved the drumming of Dave Grohl from Nirvana, and I just thought he was a brilliant drummer. And I know you got a drum set in your house, but my
wife's.
Oh yeah, that's right. But yeah, I just fell in love with drums because it's just I lean a little bit more towards the rhythm of things. That's the first thing that I hear when I hear music is the rhythm. And yeah, I started playing it. I would play in little garage bands in Tampa with friends of mine, and we would just try to emulate a lot of the metal bands or the grunge bands at that time. And so,
is that also when you're writing music, you hear the drums first as well?
Yeah, I think I always lean towards a really just attractive beat and just something that moves me. I think that's why I became a dancer as well, because I started dancing, and so feeling the music as well as listening to it is really important to me. But yeah, if I'm writing music, to answer the question from before, a lot of times I'll get a beat or something from a writer or a producer, and I'll listen to that first. And if I like the way that the instrumentation sounds, then I will write a top line over it, which would then be more the lyrics as well as with the just the melody.
Well, since you mentioned the dancing, let's chat about dancing for a while. Because I mean, you 9 years old. I guess you hadn't really started dancing yet, and
Mhm.
now you ended up on Dancing with the Stars. I mean, there's a long progression. I mean, and the Backstreet. I mean, your dancing on the Backstreet Boys is almost as important as the music itself.
Well, it's about being a performer and entertainer, and it's kind of a rare breed nowadays. You know, as far as like the shows go, you know, we're one of the only few bands, groups, artists that still believe in the full show package, which is why we came to Las Vegas, which is why you and I became friends, and which is why I stayed here, and you know, because Vegas was they were able to give us that full package when it came to the production and the show. And so yeah, dancing is something that I love, and I started dancing when I was um, around that age, you know, 9 again, and I went to a dance school, and that school was called Colin DeMarco. And I have a really interesting story because when I was around that age, I still am a big Buccaneers fan. I'll watch the Raiders out here. Don't worry, but I'm a huge from Tampa. So, but I was performing with Colin DeMarco. I wasn't that great of a dancer when I was that age. I was a little clumsy. I was a little awkward. They would put me to the back of the class because I needed to learn a little bit more. Later on, it turned out better for me, obviously, with practice, made it perfect. But I would perform with the Swashbucklers. They were cheerleaders at the time. So I was this little 9-year-old boy who would go out in the middle of a halftime show with the Buccaneers, and they were like they called them the Creamsicles, Buccaneers at the time, and they were selling out, you know, maybe 25% of the Houlihan Stadium. And so that was my first experience, you know, was going out there dancing, and I would perform, and then the cheerleaders would dance around me, and we had this like little group called Nick and the Angels was what they called them. So that's how I kind of got introduced into dancing, and then got a little bit better over time, and that's when I became the Backstreet Boy dancer, Dance with the Stars, singer, everything.
You must have been very popular in middle school with the girls.
Yeah, no, actually, in the last grade that I actually went to a real school was junior high school, because I had to actually get taken out of school because I was touring with the boys, and I was going over to Europe. You know, at the age we started in the States when I was around 12, 13. I had to kind of get out of school. So I really was homeschooled most of the time.
You were the youngest. You are the youngest of the Backstreet Boys, correct?
Yes, I am.
So were you always kind of made fun of in those early days, being the youngest one?
Yeah, I mean, listen, you know, being a Backstreet Boy has its, I could say it's ups and downs. One of the things I can say is that there was a time when, you know, we were made fun of all the time, you know, and that was because we were still, but at that time in the late 90s, early 2000s, were guys in a boy band, and a lot of the guys didn't like us necessarily, you know, because their girlfriends liked us, you know, and so I think there might have been a little bit of jealousy, and but it's funny how it kind of turned around a little bit now, where basically when we were in Las Vegas, a perfect example, when we were performing at Planet Hollywood, which was an incredible experience, had over 100 shows sold, one of the fastest selling residencies ever, and hopefully it'd be nice to come back again. You know, I'm going to be staying here and hopefully able to drive 15 minutes back to my job again, because it was really, really great. We were seeing a lot of those guys coming back, and they would come and meet us backstage. We would do a meet and greet, and those guys would say, you know, we didn't really like you when you were younger, but now it's kind of cool, you know, all right, whatever, you know. So a lot of the guys are coming to the show now and realizing, hey, it's just music, it's pop music, you know, and it's entertainment.
But you almost didn't make it to the Backstreet Boys. You almost opted out to go in the Mickey Mouse Club, the Mickey Mouse show instead, right? What was that? Yeah.
It was a really interesting situation to kind of put on 11-year-old. I basically at that time around 11. So from 9 years old till 10, 11, I was doing a lot of auditioning. I would drive up to Orlando, and I was starting to get jobs. Some of them were acting jobs. I was a better singer than I was an actor, and I had auditioned. So my mom would drive me up there a lot, and I auditioned for the Mickey Mouse Club, and that was, I guess, a couple years prior to that. You had Brittany on the show, you had Justin, you had JC, you had everyone was on the Mouse Club. And so that was the thing that, a lot of the kids from Florida wanted to be a part of. And I think it was around the same week I did an audition for the Backstreet Boys. And that audition went really well. And I'll never forget when I came back home, and then like a couple of days later, my mom said, "Hey, we have an opportunity here. We have two things, that were offered at the same time." There was a contract for the Mickey Mouse Club, which was a $50,000 contract at that time. And, my family, I came from a lower, middle class family at that time. And, my dad was working really, really hard, and, it was just basically money on the table for us, and then the other one there was no guarantee. There was no money. There was nothing. It was just, hey, you could be a part of this group called the Backstreet Boys. And so she gave me a choice between the two, and 11-year-old chose the Backstreet Boys over the Mickey Mouse Club. And a couple of years later, they canceled the Mickey Mouse Club, and Backstreet Boys continued on.
Well, it's just amazing how, we all have these forks in our lives, and they take us, you make decisions, and it affects you, the course of the future. It's an amazing thing how that could happen.
We have the forks in the road, obviously, and, we do get choices, and it's funny how things can turn out. You never know.
Yeah. And you talk about working on the road. I mean, you do, I don't know, 150, 200 dates a year. I mean, you are a busy man, and these are not just in the States. I mean, you're traveling all over the world. I mean, I can't believe there's some of the crowds you get in South America and Europe. I mean, it's bigger in some of these places than you even are in the United States. It's just absolutely amazing. I mean, how do you keep up that stamina?
Well, we were actually right before the COVID pandemic actually came to a head. We were down in South America, and we were on tour and down there for about 4 weeks, and we head all the way down, went everywhere, and then ended up in Brazil. And we got the news that we were going to have to postpone the biggest show that we had down in South America, in Brazil, in Sao Paulo, which was 50,000 people. And it basically was a stadium. And we had a couple of stadiums down there in that run as well. But, it was definitely bittersweet. And yes, we're very grateful to be able to perform for the crowds that, and to, after 27 years, for it to basically come back around again. And we were right around this time supposed to be we're supposed to be down in New Zealand, and then also in Australia, and going basically Southeast Asia, but we had to come home. And then I think it was like October, we would have started in the States again on a second run. And then we had I think somewhere around like 50 shows or something like that we were doing, which we actually just announced that we're postponing it till June of next year, roughly starting around that time. And we're going to be able to, hopefully when things come back, to do those shows again. But yeah, it's a great time. We were able to have a great comeback, and it's a little bittersweet. We have a little bit of time off right now, and it's best obviously for everyone in the world, and but we're looking forward to getting back on the road and to continuing what was happening.
Yeah, and of course the timing is fortuitous in one regard for you, because you have a new daughter, and a young son, so it really gives you that time to really bond when they're young.
The silver lining, more than, bittersweet is that, yeah, my daughter is 7 months old, and, my son is, I was able to see his birthday, celebrate his 4-year-old birthday, and seeing my daughter crawl for the first time. And yeah, so the silver lining is that I get a chance to be with them, and I'm really, really grateful for that. But they know Daddy is an entertainer, and I'm part of the Backstreet Boys, and they'll be on a bus with me when we gear back up again next year. So I'll be able to have my family with me. But yeah, I'm experiencing some great times back home with them. But what is really great now is that I'm able to change the story, with my family I have now, with my my little boy and my daughter, and my wife, and to give them an opportunity to be the best that they can be, because really that's what it's all about now. It's not about me, it's about them. It's about being able to just be a great father and be there for them in their lives, and give them the education that they deserve, that I didn't necessarily get, and there's that's what I'm really looking forward to, is being able to just to be there for them.
And you certainly have accomplished a balance in all that with your career, your family. I know you're in good shape. You work out. You eat healthy, and you powerboat race. Like, what's that?
No, I used to powerboat race. It's something that I enjoyed when I was in my late teens, and I still love boating. Don't get me wrong. The owning a racing team, which is basically what I did. It was sort of my own little way of being an owner of something. Can't own an NFL team, so why not do a boat race team? And it was fun. It was exciting. I was able to win the national championship in the boat racing world. It was one of it was a very, really great season that we had. And yeah, that was my being an owner of a boat racing team. But now I just enjoy doing pleasure boating and taking my family out and going fishing and just enjoying the water. I'm a lot more calm now. I don't need the crazy excitement of speed that much anymore.
I've been negligent in not mentioning your acting career as well. Starting, I guess, with an extra role in Edward Scissorhands.
Yeah. No, Edward Scissorhands. It's funny. It's like my claim to fame, I guess you can say. Back then, I was there. I was an extra. I saw the set being built. I was there on the set in the middle of the neighborhood. I was a part of history, and Edward Scissorhands is an incredible movie. But again, that wasn't what made me, and I definitely, I remember actually a funny story about that whole movie. I auditioned for a lead role, and I didn't get it, and so they were like, okay, well, we need an extra, so come on set. And so they made me the slip and slide kid. And but acting is not my forte. I enjoy it. I actually enjoy writing more than I do acting itself. I've written scripts. I wrote a movie. I did a movie called Dead Seven with a bunch of my buddies from all the other boy bands, NSYNC and O-Town, all the other guys. And that was a lot of fun. We did that with Sci-Fi, and when I get time, I'm going to get back to writing again. And I love the acting world, but I would really just rather focus right now. I'm sure you've been there in the past and know it, that this having kids thing is not easy. And especially when they're so young and they need your attention, and then you're waking up at 5 o'clock in the morning. So I barely have any time. I'm full-time dad, full-time nanny, full-time everything. I love it. You know, you see me walking around the neighborhood pushing the baby carriage on a daily basis. You know, I'm enjoying it. I'm loving it.
Well, thank you so much, Nick. You know, I can't wait till Las Vegas fires up again. The Backstreet Boys are back in residency somewhere.
Yep.
It's you know, we do an amazing job there, and boy, one of these days we'll have to do part 2 about this and talk about your solo albums and all the writing and God, I don't know. I see you in Broadway one day, but we'll talk about it another time.
Absolutely.
You. Yeah, Nick Carter. Thank you.
Right. Take it easy. Thank you so much for interviewing me.
Thanks.
Bye.
Well, I enjoyed that interview with Nick Carter. Look forward to the Backstreet Boys getting back into residency again in Las Vegas. Backstreet Boys coming back. Also, show number 1000. I want to thank everybody over at Channel 3. I want to thank our producer, Christian Falcon. And, of course, Fred Luna, who, when I think back over the 30, or actually close to 40 years I've been affiliated with Channel 3, Fred's the only person, along with myself, that have been there together. So thank you, Fred Luna. And thank you to our viewers, our audience. Couldn't do any of this without you. So thank you, and be happy, be safe, be careful out there. See you next week.